Hi, how you doing tonight? In this video, we are going to be discussing three important areas that will greatly benefit you in school, along with a great bonus that could be a real lifesaver in just a couple of weeks. I'm Steve Walters, and with me is my esteemed friend and co-host, Matt DiMaio from Be Smarter Faster, where you can learn everything faster and easier. And I'm kind of into that too. So our goal today is to provide you with immediately usable techniques and skills that can propel you way ahead while keeping your stress level as low as possible while you work towards reaching your goals. But I don't want to jump ahead and give away the Easter eggs of our bonus tip just yet. The first thing I want to talk about with Matt is procrastination. Now, this is something that Matt knows. This is like breathing and heart beating to me. Procrastination is bad. We know this. We've been around the sun a lot more times than most of you watching combined. So we don't want to give away our age either, but we're up there. We've been through it all. And when we procrastinate, it's a bad thing. Now, real quick, I do have a free mini course on that. By the way, anything we mentioned, the links are already in the description. You can check on those after our broadcast. So please feel free to go through there. Matt's going to have some on his channel. I've got some on both of my channels. They're already in place there. The biggest thing about procrastination, and Matt, see if you agree with me on this. And if you disagree, definitely tell me. Don't wait and procrastinate. Ask those questions. And Matt and I love to play off each other. We're pretty good on this stuff. So the biggest thing about procrastination, and when we're talking specifically about college, is where to start. The first thing you do as soon as your courses are open is do what? Open your syllabi and look at what you have to do. Where do you have to go? What's your teacher's name? What's their phone number? What's their email? All that fun stuff. And one of the things that Matt and we talked about before this, we both have used the daytimer system, but I know something that Matt's going to tell you about the daytimer system that will blow your mind, I think. I still have parts of mine. I don't have it yet because it's back ordered. So if you do order it, by the way, I think it's about mid-February when they're coming, but it's still worth getting because this system, it'll change your world for scheduling and procrastination. So Matt, what are some of the cool things that you like about the daytimer system?
You know, it's funny. I've used the daytimer system since I was in my 20s. I'll be 71 soon.
Oh, he gave it away.
So
I'm younger than that.
Really using it for a very long time. Now, I actually got started with the daytimer mini. That is something that's the wallet size that can actually fit inside a breast pocket or a back jeans pocket. And these days, I use the double page, the 8.5 by 11, 2 pages per month. What I really like about the daytimer is that at a glance, it is able to keep me organized. Now, I've tried all sorts of electronic planners, but you know the difference between having something on paper and having it in an electronic device is that when the electronic device is off or you're on a different screen, it becomes invisible. You know, it no longer exists. Whereas the daytimer, I can keep it open on a stand next to my desk all the time, see my entire month at a glance, and be able to figure out, like the jigsaw puzzle pieces of my life, just where I'm going to be able to have time to put things. And so I don't get overwhelmed. And that, let me tell you, as you go through and as you're busier and busier and you're juggling multiple projects, it's wonderful to be able to eliminate that part of a stress-causing activity.
Yeah, it's really good. Now, I use Post-it notes. I'm just going to see if I can lift up my pile of notes and I've got this stuff should be, well, this is my organizational system. It sits right here, right above my right corner of my keyboard. But when you have a daytimer system, everything goes into that. And some of them have zippers. I think mine, and I wanted to find it. I know you still keep yours. I still have the box that it came in from 1984 or 5, I think is when I got it. So that thing's
Can you say
old.
pack rat?
No, it holds my little micro tools. It's a really cool thing. And every year you get the little booklets. Now I use the booklets. And when I worked in radio sales, our manager would make us sit on the phone at the end of the day and fill out our Monday. So if it was Friday afternoon, we'd all show back up and everybody brag about the sales we did. everything going on like that. He said, all right, let me see your day timers. And we, hands up, it's just on your
Right.
desk. It's out of your control. Pencils down, you're done. And he'd say, all right, you got, one more appointment. You got a book. You're not going home until Monday is 100% booked. Tuesday's got to be 80%, Wednesday 60, so on and so on. So every single day that passed, the very next day before you went home, if he was still there, we had to be 100% filled in our appointments. Now, most of you in college don't work the same way that we might have done in sales and back in business. But you have free time. You have study time. Oh, free time. Speaking of which, you do need to schedule free time in. Seriously, if you're going to play a game, don't just do it arbitrarily when you think, oh, I'll do it now. Schedule the time and actually write it down in the day timer. Okay, it's really good. Are there any cons to the day timer system that you could think of? I don't think of any.
Well, there's a limit to how much that you may want to write. I've developed my own level of my own sort of shorthand. But there was something very satisfying about the tactile feeling of having information written down. And compared to typing things out or with your phone, you're typing in with your thumbs, it doesn't stay in your head as well. And one of the things that I teach is the more senses that you use when you're inputting information, the better it'll stay in your head. The more synapses are connected. And so the act of physically writing out things that you need to do wind up staying in your head that much better. So a lot of times I can visualize what's on my planner rather than having to actually go and look at it.
Yeah, and having that planner, the other thing is I was on vacation and my brain literally turned off and I'm still in the reboot phase. So if I seem a little off, it's because I'm rebooting still. I think it's going to take a month. No, it's not. It's going to take tomorrow morning. I'm going to wake up at 4:30 and it's going to be fine. And the problem is I take a lot of notes. So today, this is just a few notes I took today. Oh, where's the camera? There it is. So those are just from today. That's not including what I typed. The problem is if I don't have this book with me, the notes are forgotten. So what I do a lot of times, I'll take these notes from here and I'll actually type it into a Word document. I use Word or I'll use Google Drive if I'm sharing it with somebody, and then I'll throw it into my digital calendar. Now for Daytimer, and I did say, and I swear I'm going to do this, I'm going to try to go back to a paper calendar to see if it helps with my ability to get through a lot of tasks. I have a lot of tasks every day. With 3 sections of classes I'm teaching this semester, it's going to get a little hectic, a little busy. I'm pretty well practiced at it. It's kind of in the groove. It's just, it's waking up, doing my thing. But there's still a lot of things. I have a lot of students that need a lot of different unique challenges that I have, emails and all kinds of stuff. They need everything. So I've got to make sure that I'm always on top of that, especially getting back with emails, because I'm really, really picky about my communications with them. The other thing about writing when we're doing digital, and I do love the tactile sense. I mean, scientists have proven that if you write something, it stays longer in your brain. And if I could bring in my students in a couple of weeks, maybe if they're brave enough, I'll bring them in who I know take notes. And I'll say, why do you take notes? And they use maybe 6 or 7 different colors for highlighting. I mean, I can't even do that. I could use yellow or pink or blue, and that's about it. But they have a system, and their system works for them. So maybe we'll try to bring them in and share that. And then we'll have Matt, you can question them. You can be we'll put them on the spot. We'll have a little open discussion about different study techniques. So other things about writing, when you're spelling by hand and you misspell, you got to then look up that word. The other problem with writing these days is cursive writing. Okay. I know cursive writing is not being taught a lot anymore. It's all print. So I always say, well, how do you send your name in your tax form? I don't have paid taxes yet. Not yet. The day they turn 18, they're going to be signing. So how do you sign your name? You don't, you print your name. So it's a really odd thing. But how do you spell certain words? Now on my channel, I do big words, loquacious and sagacious and all these fun things. Those are tough words to spell if your hand doesn't know how to do it. Typing, we get the assist, or I should say thumbing for texting. It gives us good assist. One of the tools that I use other than, where is it? This thing, it's called an eraser. You can see, oh, wait, where's the focus? You can tell that's not shoe marks. That's actually from erasing. And there's probably a little pile down here below. And I like to erase things, or if I use a pen, I scratch things out. But digitally, I like to use Grammarly. And again, Grammarly, the link's in there. There's a free version of it. I've been using Grammarly for free, I'm going to say since 2000. I've got to look it up. There's got to be a way to find the account, but probably almost 10 years now I've been using it, the free version. And I actually talked to my students, and one of my students in my last semester, he actually did the paid version. And I said, really? I said, why'd you do that? He said, and then he started going off more than I knew about it. So again, that's your option, but check the free version out. It's a lifesaver. It's not part of our bonus tip that's coming up in a little bit, but it is a lifesaver.
You made an interesting point that I hadn't really been aware of until you brought up the eraser. When I'm in my planner, I never use a pen. I only use a mechanical pencil because I want to have, and I have a separate eraser that I keep there because the eraser on the mechanical pencil smears the
really tiny
smears
too,
it.
Yeah.
And so I keep a separate eraser there because it gives me the ability to change things and move things around really easily.
Yep.
And so that's something I hadn't even considered. And you also mentioned the idea of Post-it notes. What I like about keeping a little pad, or actually I have two pads of different Post-it notes on my desk right next to my planner. And sometimes what I'll do for temporary information is I'll post it and I'll stick it right on the planning pages itself.
Sorry about the reach here. I couldn't reach it. So what Matt's talking about, and you know what? I'll make a note. I'm going to put the Post-it notes. I found this cool Post-it note. It's got, I think, 20 different colors I didn't know Post-it makes it. I'll put that in the description afterwards. It's not in there right now, but that's through Amazon, and it's right through Post-it notes. But these are where's the camera? These are little. So these are really finger sized. These are awesome tabs.
They look like Band-Aids.
But these are Band-Aids. These can fix your schedule.
Ooh, good. Good comeback.
Yeah. See, there's purple. This is orange.
Oh yeah.
And then I've got the green. I'm almost out of green. I think I hate to use. There's two left, so I'm going to save these. And then I've got purple, pink. I've got yellow. But
see, the nice thing about having them is that it gives you the ability to random access stuff. And then I can take the Post-it and I can move it to, like, if I've got something where I meet somebody and I want to record their name, but I don't want to actually have it permanently in the planner because it's a temporary situation, I can just take that Post-it and move it to another spot. Yeah. Or if there's an appointment that moved and it moved, much further on down the line, I can just take it and I can move that to another month or what have you.
Yeah. So yeah. If we go back to old school,
to transfer information back and forth. Again, the beauty of it is that it's always on. I keep my book open on it's like a music stand, and I keep it open so that everything is available all the time for me to be able to see it.
Yeah, I used to use a flat desktop, the big, what was it, the 2 foot by 3 foot. I love that. That to me, when I was a kid, I was in my 20s and I got my own desk and I was like, wow, I have a desk and it's empty. And the first thing I put down there was that big desk mounted calendar, and I'm writing stuff on there. And after the first week, I was like, oh my gosh, where's my calendar? Because there was so much junk on it. I would advise, if you have two desks and one doesn't get used except for that calendar, most res hall and dorm rooms, wherever you don't have two desks. You just don't have room for it. That's where you go to a wall calendar and get one with the erasable wall calendar. So that way you don't have to spend about $1,000 getting the huge ones each. But those are really good. They have the small ones. That's pretty good. The other thing with Post-it notes that I always talk about, Matt, is stick these on the mirror where you get ready in the morning. So let's say you have to pick somebody up. Yeah. And just stick it where you're going to see it.
Your highest priority to-do list stuff.
Yeah.
So you don't forget things.
Yeah. Because somebody might have texted you. Yeah. They're reminders, and you could stick these everywhere. The problem is if they fall off. That's the only negative to Post-it notes. So you got to be careful where you put them. I've put them up on my monitors where it's, get something or go somewhere, do something that pops up, make sure I hit a deadline. I'll set my alarm. I'll set my watch. I'll set paper. I'll put 12 different Post-it notes up. If it's that important, I will put them up everywhere. And then I will carry them in my hand.
Yeah. If you've got to remember to bring a report to class with you, or in maybe your case, maybe you want to take something. No. And so what I do is one of the short courses that I do is on the subject of eliminating absent-mindedness. It's called Forgetful No More. It's one
Wait,
of my
what was
books.
that about?
Wait a minute, I can't remember. And so if you want to remember to bring something with you, you know, at the moment you think of it, oh yeah, tomorrow I've got to make sure I take this such and such with me. Then what I suggest that you do is you just take a Post-it note. You don't even have to write anything on it. And you take it and you stick it on the door facing you. Before you leave, you have to see that Post-it note.
Yep.
Now, it's the kind of like the idea of tying a string around your finger. The string has absolutely nothing to do with what it is you're trying to remember. It's just a reminder. And it's an interesting word, to remind. It means to put it in your mind again, to remind.
I can't remember the last time I did the stringer on my finger. It had to be, I'm going to go back early 70s.
Almost. I don't know anybody that's actually done it. It's something that people would talk about. But the Post-it note on the door of your dorm room or of your home, right before you leave, you see it and you go, oh yeah, that's right. I've got to make sure I remember to bring that term paper, that report, that book, my thermos, whatever.
Lunch. Yeah. Charge my cell phone, bring my charger. Yeah. If one of your cables goes bad. Now I have had students that use excuses. There are excuses and reasons. I've got a good video on that one. But the excuse of my phone didn't charge. I'm not buying that. I know it can happen, but I'm not buying it, because I'm going to take a wild guess that nearly 99.9999 with that line over it, I'm not a mathematician, but that means almost everybody has a cell phone and everybody knows how to plug one in. The trick is, do you know how to actually connect it? Yeah, you've probably been doing that. Well, if you're 18, 19 years old, you've probably been doing that for 17 years. And now they have them. I mean, there's people, you just set it down on the pad and it charges. Now, the power does go out. Granted, on vacation, I was down on the beach and we really didn't have good internet, but I was listening to Audible books and music and stuff and taking videos and walking with it and pictures. And the heat actually drops the battery down. Now, my phone's getting a little bit old. And after 4 or 5 hours, my battery was kind of getting down there. I thought, uh-oh, there's nowhere to charge it. So what do I do if it goes dead? So I just started conserving it. And it does happen. I mean, phones, they do die. But when somebody says, well, my phone wouldn't charge for 2 days. No, sorry, ain't biting. Nope, I'm not going to go there. Now, your laptop, yes, I can believe that, because older laptops, they can die in 2. My Mac, I think if I plugged it in and went online, it's dead in an hour and a half. But it's also 10 years old. So it's old school. But again, that's where the Post-it note comes in, along with the day timers. So other things about writing. So Matt, we were talking about ideas and how to get things out of our head. And I believe you've got a technique to help people do that.
So we're talking about now, we're moving from writing notes for yourself or even taking notes in class, and we're moving to creative writing.
And this will be our second area.
Okay, good. Good. I'm glad that we made a distinction there.
Track. I have a list below the camera. It's not on Post-it note,
but a divider.
Yeah.
So we're talking about essays and term papers.
Yeah.
And I know that from a lot of people, I remember when I was in school, that was one of the most painful things. And we started off our conversation here about procrastination. That is something that almost everybody that I know procrastinates on. And here's what makes writing painful for you. It is not the fact of having to do the research. It is the actual writing process itself where you feel completely jammed up. You have a log jam in your head. And I'm going to free that up right now by giving you the insight as to what's causing it and how to instantly eliminate it. When you're writing, you must first just dump everything to paper or just type everything out. So I pay my bills by being a writer. And one of the things that I will do when I have an assignment is, the first thing is, I don't care about my grammar. I don't care about the vocabulary. I don't care about the order of any of the information. When I have a large creative project that I need to write, the first thing that I do is dump all of my present ideas out onto that page in front of me.
That's what I call green light thinking.
And so once I have the major topics listed out in any order, I'll write them out as I think of them. Oh yeah, I got to include this and that. Oh yeah, I need to include the next thing. Then go back and put those ideas in some sort of a framework, put them in an order. Once you've got your ideas in order, now you can start to create sentences. The biggest mistake that people make is they attempt to edit while they're writing. Now, I want you to understand, writing is the process of adding. Editing is the process of subtracting. And so you cannot have your mind stuck doing adding and subtracting simultaneously. It fritzes you out. That's where your frustration comes from. Do all of your creative stuff, just dump everything to paper. Then, once you've got your basic ideas and you've got them in order, now begin to go through and create sentence structure. Sometimes you'll get stuck on the proper arrangement of a sentence, or there's a particular adjective or a word that you're looking for. Don't worry about it right now. Put in some filler word that allows you to get the idea out. And now you've got a big block of text. Now you go back and do your editing. You were talking earlier about Grammarly earlier. Mm-hmm. That is a very important tool. For me, when I'm writing, one of the tabs that I've got open on my computer is thesaurus.com. What's another word for thesaurus? And so
help.
And so
wait, let me look up
I want to have I want to have as much additional brain power help from thesaurus to allow me to express myself. I don't want to use the word great 27 times. I want 15 different synonyms to the word great.
That's great. Most. That's a great topic. I love it.
And what that'll do is, first of all, it makes you a much, much better writer, because having a large vocabulary allows you to express ideas down to tremendous levels of finesse.
It's like the word very. There's so much information. Don't use very. Don't use the word very. Well, very is a very, very, very important word, depending how you use it. But there are words that you can use instead of very and wherever the word it's being used with. The trick is, what's that word? So that's where that thesaurus comes in. And because I use Word, I click on the word and I look at synonyms, because I tend to do the same thing. I'll use the same 5 words over and over and over. I feel like the monkey with a typewriter just going at it. So that helps me expand it. And I'm what you would call a fairly prolific writer. If you look at Grammarly, one of the cool things is each week it tells you how many words you produce that week. And there's weeks that I'm producing 20 to 30,000 words. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, I type a lot. So between emails, it tracks everything. And people go, I don't want to tracking. Actually, you do, because you train it, it trains you, and it helps. It's not the same as predictive text on a phone, although it can do that. But when you're typing an email and you're quick and you're hot-headed in your head, and it's not a text, it's an email, and you're sending it out and you make a typo. My biggest typo is TEH for the. It's just the way I type, and it catches it. I'm like, whoop, no, fix that one. It doesn't do it automatically, but it triggers it. It's called the red squiggle line. If you see a red squiggle line, it means pay attention to me. I need fixing. And I go through this over and over and over. I'm like, it doesn't boggle my mind, but I laugh in my mind. I don't laugh at the person, but I laugh at the idea of, you didn't see the red squiggle line? Yeah, but I didn't know what it meant. And I just, oh, who's your teacher? I want to call your high school teacher and just like Say, teach about the red squiggle line, will you please? So, speaking
See,
of talking to people,
yeah, so
that's
when you eliminate the fear of, or when you eliminate the log jam, the pain of
getting it
writing,
out.
and that's really where it comes from. Is, that log jam is a painful feeling. You've got the ideas all jammed up inside your head, and you can't find a good way to express them. That's painful, and as a result, you will procrastinate because you don't want to experience that pain.
It's paralysis through overanalysis too. That can happen with it. So, and speaking of pain, though, when somebody has to talk to somebody else about it, so you go to a friend and say, Matt, I'm having trouble. I'm actually networking out to you. And that we want to get into is our third area before we get into our bonus tip coming up. So let's talk about networking. I teach networking in the very last week or last week and a half of my class that I teach in communications. And after talking to Matt the other day, I thought, I should be teaching it first. Well, I want to teach everything on the first day, but I thought, and actually, I remember years ago thinking as a joke, what would it take to teach all 15 chapters of the book in one day? 15 hours. Let's just blow this class out in 15 hours. The problem is you can't process all that information. I don't know if I've ever talked straight for 15 hours before. I know when I was in radio and younger, I probably could have. I know we did those marathons, just raising money. And we talked for hours and hours and hours, but I don't think ever 15. But let's talk real quick about networking and expanding your circle of contacts, because this is one of Matt's really cool areas. And he's got a super hot tip. And he has a book that I want to remind him to tell you about too, because that's a pretty important thing.
So here's an expression that you've probably heard most of your life. To be a success in life, it's not just what you know, it's who you know.
Yep, I know.
And so these days, our cell phones, which are supposed to connect us with the world, for the most part, really isolate us from the world. And you're surrounded by your friends and you're looking at your phone. So one of the most important things that you can do when you're a student is make as many strong interpersonal connections as you possibly can. You want to create connections with the people that you admire, that you respect, that make you laugh, that you have fun with. And different relationships are going to yield different results. So when you're stuck on a difficult subject, you don't want to keep that information, or you don't want to keep those problems in your own head. You want to spread them around in your study group. And so you want to have enough people that you know personally, that you feel a kinship with, that you feel like you're on a similar intelligence level with, to bounce ideas off of. This is how Steve and I found each other. We both belong to a YouTube training course. I posted something, he responded, I responded back, and before you knew it, we were on the phone with each other. Now, even though he lives in Ohio and I'm in the Tampa Bay area of Florida.
And by the way, we met just 2 weeks ago in person, because I drove all the way down there to have lunch with Matt and came all the way back up in the same day.
When I knew he was coming to Florida, we actually made arrangements so that we would be able to meet. So I met him and his lovely wife. You want to have strong interpersonal connections with people to help you with your studying, to have people to be able to brainstorm. When you have two people get together, a third mind forms between you. When you have a group of people that get together, a new mind is created amongst all of you, called a mastermind.
I like it.
You want that as much as possible.
Yeah.
I've got a quick story about actually how I met somebody, and how I know a lot of you are shy about meeting people. So I want to address that before we go too far down the road. But Steve, I know you wanted me to talk about my book, but let me let you jump in real fast and comment on what we were talking about here, and then I'll talk about my story and my book in a moment.
All right, good. So networking when I'm working with students, a lot of times the first thing a student comes in, they walk into the room and then they go and they bury their nose into their cell phone. And then the class starts and they kind of maybe move the cell phone. Some students actually put their phones down. Some kind of just hold it in their hand and then they do this. That's me. I'll hang one out, or they got go to the earbuds. They'll actually kind of just let it hang down a little bit, or they'll just turn the volume down. And I say, hey, buds out, because I want to make sure you hear me. They're earplugs, basically. So one of the things I try to do is make relationships with my students. Now, before anybody says, oh my God, he makes relationships, it's not that. It's the relationship of teacher to student, student to teacher. All right. So get that other stuff out of your head right now. The relationship that I commit, that I guarantee to my students is, if you have a problem, if you have a question, if you have a concern, I don't care how stupid you think the question is. First of all, there's never a stupid question, because you're not the only one that has it. I guarantee it. There's at least one other person, if not 20 other people in the room that have it, but you're the only one willing to ask it. You need to approach your teachers. Create that relationship with them. Let them know you're not afraid to go toe to toe with them and say, hey, I got a problem. I have a question. Okay. There's people that have approached me that says, I have a really delicate situation. I'm like, hold on. And then I got to go through all my training and say, wait till the room empties, or, is it like really important to go? Well, yeah, it's real personal. I said, then let's, there's private rooms, there's counselors on campuses. So you got to reach out to people like that. If your friends aren't there texting you, right, and they're not available, even though they're just down the hallway, approach a teacher. Teachers love to talk to students. Now, I can't say that about everybody. The teachers I know generally like that banter. They like that conversation. But keep in mind, their time is limited too. Some teachers teach 5 classes. I teach 3. We do have lives outside of that building, so please be respectful. There are some students that we've had this running dialogue for 15, 16 weeks, and then they're still in the building, and we'll continue that over a year. It's pretty cool. You never know who you're going to meet later in life. Now, one big thing, Matt, that I got to tell you, this is the one thing I teach my students, is that just because you're 18, 19, 20 years old now, or even 16, 17, because I get some younger kids, is you may meet somebody in this classroom later in life who is actually going to hire you to give you money for a job, because maybe they advanced, or vice versa. You're looking to hire them. So you always have to be careful about this with networking. I carry business cards. I can't reach them. Can you see it on my shelf? Oh, it's right. Let's see if I can do this. It's right there. Those are my business cards. It's right on the edge of the split screen. It's usually, I could do this over here, but you can't see it. But I carry business cards with me for my YouTube channel. And I carry some for my college that just has my collegial information on it. Nothing else. It's just my name, my phone number, and my college email. That's so students know how to do that. And I pass that out. It's on the syllabus, and I give them those cards, and that creates another network. So that really helps out. There's a lot more I could say, but that's all I'm going to say now, because we need to keep moving along. So
I know that a lot of times people, because of the internet, and they're always on their phones, they don't really know, they feel self-conscious about going and meeting new people. They're worried about how they're going to be perceived. Well, step number 1, if you want to expand your circle of connections, which is one of the most important things you can do in life, the very first thing is to smile. There is nothing better than a genuine smile to somebody else, and almost always they'll smile back.
Now, unfortunately, for the last 2 years, well, I could say, plus a couple months, we haven't been able to see people smile. And that's a unique situation in life. Now, traveling around now, you can see smiles again, and it's really good. Now, if we just get rid of the plexiglass so we can actually hear them, that'd be really nice. But the smiling is important, because I could smile. I'm a smiler. When I'm out in public, I smile. Whether I'm in a bad mood or not, I smile. I fake it. right? It doesn't matter. That smile means I'm approachable. And if I could show you all of the surveys at the end of the courses, I'm approachable. I mean, it's not bragging. I'm approachable because I'm smiling.
The next thing is to actually say something to a person. And a lot of times you just don't know what to say. However, there's a couple of basic rules. If you're able to pay somebody a small, sincere compliment and make it specific, rather than saying, "Oh, that's a nice outfit that you're wearing," or "That's a cool backpack you got," you may say, "Hey, that backpack, I really like the design on that," or "The colors that you're wearing today are very flattering on you." Start with some small but specific, sincere compliment.
I like that. That's good.
Now, Ben Franklin had a technique that he would do that would help generate rapport between himself and other people very quickly. And he would ask for some small favor. So if you were sitting together at the lunch table, you might ask somebody, "Hey, would you please pass the sugar? Please pass the salt." And just doing something simple like that, somebody will pass the salt to you, and there's a psychological thing that happens that the fact that I am passing somebody the salt must mean that I actually like them. It's
Yeah,
impossible.
versus ignoring them.
It's impossible to explain
Yeah, I get it.
in words. But
Yeah.
there is some built-in human trait that when you ask somebody for a small favor, "Can you hand me that thing?" that there's an instant connection between you.
Well, there is a connection. Yeah, it's the giving of something. It's like, hey, here's this.
And the most important thing is to make sure you get somebody's name. And as Steve was talking about earlier, I've become really quite fanatical on the subject of learning people's names. So, and it's just not learning the name, but also being able to remember the name. I've written a book on the subject. I have 3 books.
Oh,
But one
get
of
it on
my
the camera
books
there. There you go.
is How to Remember People's Names. And it's available on Amazon.
And I'm going to put a link in the description, so check it out.
But the point is, if you're able to recall people's names, it gives you a level of personal confidence and personal power that you really can't get any other way. Many times when I do seminars in front of groups, I will, before the presentation starts, I will go around the room and meet as many different attendees as I possibly can. And then from the front of the room, call them by name and greet them. The level of connection that I have with my audience is undeniable. Now, I'm not looking to have you do demonstrations or do show off stuff like that, but it's really cool to be able to walk into any class, go to any party, and be able to call everybody in that room by name, that you know who everybody is. By the way, when you're able to recall lots of people's names, they will look at you with a different level of respect. They will hold you in esteem. It makes you look much more powerful in their eyes. It is absolutely one of the best skills that you can ever develop.
And this is where Matt and I, this is another funny addition to this, is in my classes, and if any of my former students ever see this, they can attest to this. I always talk about this guy back in the 80s that came to one of our Dale Carnegie sales courses back then. And he went around to the room. There was some 50 people. And he takes up, he had short sleeve shirt. I don't remember who it was, but it's got to be Matt because he's the only guy that ever did this. And he went around the room and he goes, "I'm going to blow your minds. Watch this." And he goes around, he goes, "Hi, what's your name? What do you do? Hi, and he shook hands with every single person in the room. And then he waited. Now, I teach what's called stacking, and I teach my students this a little bit. And then he went back and he said everybody's name. Our minds were blown. I mean, it was just like, how did he do that? And it had to be Matt, because it's one of those things. And the fate of reality of life and the universe is just weird how it works. And here we are now, buddies, here 40 years later. Well, almost 40 years, but yeah, I don't know. It was, I think it was,
You talk about connecting with somebody for a really, really long time like that. I have a story about meeting somebody that I've become lifelong friends with. So when I went to, back then we used to call it junior high. These days they call it middle school. But when I started seventh grade, I had transferred from a Catholic school to a public middle school. And then they would line everybody up, they'd sort everybody out by the alphabet. Well, I was in gym class and I was sitting in the bleachers and we were sitting alphabetically. Well, the kid sitting next to me, his last name also started with a D. And he was feeling uncomfortable. The first day of school, a brand new school, he had just moved to our town from the town next door. So I didn't know anybody in the school. He didn't know anybody in the school. We were both sitting there, seventh grade, shy, a little uncomfortable. And I looked at him. We're in gym. I turned to him and I said, "Hey, do you think you can climb that rope?" Because we were in the gym class.
We used to climb ropes back then without helmets, we didn't even put mats down below. Yeah.
Exactly. It was not a big deal.
And no feet.
And no feet.
Hands only.
That's right. And so he responded. It doesn't matter what he said. Yeah, I think I can do it. And he might have even cracked on me. I could probably do it faster than you, but whatever it was, by asking a simple question, I didn't pay him a compliment. I asked him a question. And that's another thing that you can do to get a conversation started. Mm-hmm. And when we just started talking about whether we could climb a rope or not. The subject is irrelevant. It started a conversation. And so now you've got the match lit. It's just a question of throwing a little bit of fuel, a little bit of gas on that fire. Well, fast forward, we graduate high school. I see him again on my 10th high school reunion, and he's become a chiropractor. I decided that I wanted to change chiropractors, and I became his first patient at his brand new office.
Wow.
And then every time he opened a new office, I was the first patient at that office.
Great.
One day, I walked in, and because of our friendship, I never had to wait in line. And so I called to find out if he was going to be there. I walk in, there's a waiting room full of patients, and I go right on through. Well, there was a young woman sitting in that waiting room that was wondering, who is this guy with the funny mustache that just zooms past everybody that we've all been sitting here waiting for our turn? Well, while I was talking to the doctor, his wife asked me, "Hey, are you ever going to get married?" I was 39 years old and I was still single. And she said, "Are you ever going to get married?" And I said, "Yeah, when I meet the right one." And so we go through all of that. And I give her a short description of who I'm looking to meet. And she says, "Well, there's a girl like that kind of sitting in our waiting room right now." And I went, "Oh, yeah, I saw her on my way in. She's definitely my type. Would you, when it's her turn to come in for her appointment, would you ask her if it's okay for me to give her a phone call? You can give her my name." So this woman came in for her appointment. The doctor's wife is saying, "Well, that guy's a good friend of ours. He thought that you were very attractive. He'd like to give you a call, maybe take you to lunch or something." And she said, "Yes." Fast forward a couple of more years, I married that woman.
I'm thinking it's
I married Anna.
That's great.
And because her family lives in the Caribbean and her father was too ill to travel, it was my friend Dr. Art that walked her down the aisle. Oh. The same guy that I met back in 7th grade, "Do you think you can climb that rope?" introduced me to the woman I married this past October. We're married 27 years.
Woohoo.
And he walked her down the aisle.
That's so
How's that
cool.
for a cool story?
That's cool. That's networking extreme. That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Hey, speaking of awesome, if you think Matt and I are doing somewhat awesome, how about throwing us a thumbs up? That'd be pretty cool. And maybe consider subscribing. I've got 2 channels. He's got one. His channel's a bit bigger than mine, considerably. he's he's definitely getting up there. It's he's got another anniversary number coming up. I'm looking for a 6 coming into one of his numbers. So that'd be pretty cool. So one of the things that we all face too is, and Matt and I know this a lot, and we've faced it. I've probably faced it more than I realize. It's burnout. That is our bonus topic for today. So, how to avoid burnout. Now, this is a huge, enormous times 10 area because everybody faces burnout in different ways, because everybody's life is unique and individual, and everybody just has different levels of burnout. Some people never burn out. They become billionaires, trillionaires. Well, I don't know. There's people. Is there any trillionaires? No, not yet. No, Elon Musk, he's going to be fighting for it. If he was 20, maybe. There's probably somebody in our next 50 years could be a trillionaire, but we have companies that way. But burnout is a real thing. I made a short list. I'm going to go through them real quick, and then I want Matt to comment on some of these to see if he can. I'm just going to do a listicle. So one of the best things for burnout is rest, obviously. Nutrition, which also it just includes good food and water. You see me drinking waters and not coffee. I've had way too much coffee today, and I'm still feeling it because my brain's still rebooting from vacation. I think I might be able to get back down to 3 cups a day instead of 5. Exercise is another thing. Light exercise. I'm not talking, bodybuilding. I mean, if that's your thing, do it, because you can burn out in exercise too. You got to be careful of that. Some people go overboard in that. Planning breaks. I mentioned that early on when we're using that daytimer system. Schedule in breaks. People take lunch breaks. They take afternoon breaks. Where I was at, we take siestas because it's really hot between 2 and 3. So you take a siesta, but you need to plan breaks. And it's just not a week or 2 weeks if you can, but 20 minutes, a half hour, 45 minutes. And even right now, what you're going to do in that break, if you're going to do yoga, if you're going to go for a walk, if you're going to go have coffee with a friend, and having conversations with friends. That's another thing. Good conversation, not just, yo, what's up? I don't know. What's up? That's not a conversation. That's just put your cell phone down and actually talk. Other bonus things. Practice positivity. Okay. Now, my wife and I got this thing. A lot of times it sounds negative when it comes out. In my head, it sounds neutral, but it comes out negative. So I try to think, well, how can I reframe that to make it positive? Well, it could be the tone of your voice, smiling. Hi, I'm in a really crappy mood right now. How are you doing? I can do that because I've done it a lot, right? You got to be careful how you do that. But Matt, what do you think about those? Are those good? What do you got?
Absolutely. When you're doing the same thing for too long, and your mind no longer you reach full absorption. It's like a sponge. You have to take time to squeeze out the sponge. Because there's only so much that you can absorb. It's like no matter how hungry somebody is, they can eat until they're full, but then you've got to take time to digest it. So simple things like just very light exercise, going for an easy walk, just taking time to breathe. Little things like that can have a huge impact on your life. The subject of sleep is the last thing that I want to talk about. And I know, because I went through it myself, when you're in your teens and your 20s, I know you don't need as much sleep. I know.
Oh, wait, no, you need 22 hours a day, don't you?
But the simple truth is that, unless you are getting 6 to 8 hours of restful sleep on a regular basis, your mind and body cannot possibly perform at its best. This is not an arguable fact. I have people who want to argue it all the time. I'm sorry. It's just not an arguable topic. You have to have 6 to 8 hours of restful sleep on a regular basis in order to perform at your optimum. You
And we're
want to
not
be
talking physical.
suboptimum,
We're
that's
talking
fine.
mental. Yeah, we're not
Well,
just
we're
talking
talking
physical. We're talking
exactly
mental. Yeah,
both. And so
both. Yeah.
burnout is more mental than it is physical. You know, when you're
Yeah.
studying, there's very little physical burnout.
Yeah, when you're creating, I created before I went on vacation, I created 74 videos in a very short time span. I could say
Yeah, you get
I probably
punchy.
burned out. I finished, but I burned out. But it got me ahead, so it was planned that way. It
And then
was not.
you needed to take an appropriate break
That's
and
why I
get
can't
away
figure out what
from
I'm
it.
doing today.
There
Yeah,
you
I'm looking at the
go.
screen today, and I'm just I'm just blank. It's kind of what my glasses must be off. Nothing's working. It's just it's the reboot. That's where this thing comes in handy, because sometimes you can grab this, make a box, put 2 words in it, and then, oh, okay, good. That's what I meant. I couldn't figure out how to write it down, or type it out, but I wrote it down. So it worked out. Yeah. Sleep is something I teach my students too. We talk about that in part of communications, even though it is part of communications because it's how we function. I probably get about 6.5 hours of sleep ish, somewhere in there. I know when I was younger, I could sleep 22 hours a day. I'd wake up, I'd eat, go to the bathroom, eat, go back to sleep. And then, it was like the time machine. It's like, what day is it? Then as I got older, I started sleeping less and less. And then now it's 6 hours. Sometimes I might even get up at 3:30 some days. So I'm getting into that 5 hour range. I get a little tired. So I'll catch a 45-minute nap. And somebody in my mastermind group, another group I'm in, she asked, how do you fall asleep so quick in the middle of the day? My brain's too busy. I go, easy. I stick my headset in with music, preferably, and lately I've been doing classical music because there's no words to it. So it doesn't distract my mind with other thoughts. I put it on just loud enough to mute out other sounds, but not loud enough to be overly distracting. And boom, I'm out. And then the alarm goes off. Oh, yeah, set the alarm. That's the other trick. Some people, yeah, I meant to take a 20-minute nap and I slept for like 6 hours. I'm like, something's not right with that. And been there, done that. I'm not gonna, say, not judging that. But again, short naps. And I've taken 10-minute naps where it's just good. Just closing your eyes, putting your feet up. It can make all the difference in the world. Just don't do it while you're driving. And if you take the bus or a train, be careful. I did that once as a kid, and I ended up in downtown Cleveland, and boy, was it hard to get back because I didn't have money. I fell asleep on the bus, and the bus driver didn't see me. I had to walk. That was a long walk. That was a brutal walk. So I think that's it for burnout. We don't want to burn anybody out. We don't want to burn ourselves out. So what do you think? Is that about all we have on burnout?
We covered a lot of ground on this talk.
We did cover a lot, and we appreciate you watching everything. And by the way, speaking of watching things, make sure you check out the video next in the replay. It's not here now, but in the replay, it will be here on my screen.
So
And Matt will
there.
probably put his up there. That video will definitely help you out in whatever it is that you need to know. And that's what YouTube thinks you need to know. So have a great day, a great afternoon, great evening. We'll see you later. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.